Landstar BCOs make any money? Can you earn a good living as a Landstar owner-operator? I was a Landstar BCO for 6 years, from 2018 through 2024. Short answer is yes, you can make money at Landstar. And a lot of people have comments about Landstar, like referring to the fact that Landstar takes a high percentage. I'm not saying they don't take a high percentage, but the percentage that they take is less than what most people will quote, and I'll explain that in this video. I want to go through a settlement so you can see how BCOs get paid, what you pay through your settlement statements to Landstar. I may touch on the fuel discounts. They have a program called LCAP, so you get discounts on tires and fuel. I'll go over why some people have different experiences, like why my experience may be different than yours. Talk about different trailer types and where some of the confusion comes in, and the difference in having your own trailer on with Landstar versus using a Landstar trailer. A lot of it's got to do with, are you good at building relationships? The trucking is a relationship industry, and so I think where a lot of people fail is because Landstar may be their first owner-operator like position. So if you come from a company driver and then Landstar is your first owner-operator position, you may be used to someone dispatching you. You may not be used to being required to run a business. So you've got a lot of new things going on all at once. You're running a business now, you're a 1099, you're self-employed. You now need to, there's a lot more stuff you got to keep track of, and you're learning the relationship side of the business all at the same time, so it can be overwhelming for people. I'll go over things in more detail. I need to get onto a computer. I can't do that while I'm driving. I'll pull up a settlement and we'll go through things, and I'll try to make it not a cherry-picked settlement. Maybe I'll go through a few of them just to show good years and bad years. I've got all my settlements back from, I don't know, I think when I started saving them, 2020 maybe. I may have them all the way back to 2018. I'll have to look through them, but I'll show you some from 2022 was a good trucking year. I'll show some from that. I'll show some from right before I quit, which is kind of you should be able to see from the settlements why I quit trucking. You'll see the difference of 2022 versus 2023 and 24. So I'll go through that stuff, but I got to get stopped at a truck stop up here. Here's one of the reasons that people I'm looking at the Landstar, that most recent quarterly earnings call, or this is the slides that went along with the earnings call. So it's from January 28, 2026. But I was looking through here, not at this part. I didn't read through all that stuff, but some of the reason, if I could find it here, that people, and this section was actually kind of interesting here. They go over all the different ways they're using or planning on using artificial intelligence to improve the business. So I'm actually going to go back and listen to the full call and just hear what they have to say about all these different points here. I'll listen to a little bit of it, but I was busy. I've got other stuff to do. Where was it? So they were talking about, okay, here it is. So van versus unsided platform. So these, let me zoom in here. So this shows on a quarter by quarter basis from the fourth quarter of 21 all the way through the fourth quarter of 25, which is the most recent. I mean, that's the earnings call they're doing when they presented this information, or that they referenced in their earnings call. So if we look at the revenue per load for unsided platform freight, and then we look at the revenue per load for van. So Landstar has van. They do have some reefer loads, not a whole lot though, but I talked to a handful of reefer drivers that were on as BCOs whenever I was there. I think they had, like, not their own customers obviously, but they had like just certain very few agents that they worked with on a regular basis. So, and the unsided platform freight, if you look at this, the trend of the revenue per load, where it's at, and you look at the revenue per load for the van, look how much the van dropped off. And this isn't, so just one quick note about Landstar's unsided platform freight. This isn't a comparison of dry van and flatbed. So Landstar has some flatbeds, or they have owner-operators who pull a flatbed, but a lot of the Landstar unsided platform freight that's captured in these metrics here, there's a lot of heavy haul and specialized trailers that are used for this. And I'd say I'm not, I don't have inside information like to their actual numbers, but I felt like there was a larger concentration of step decks relative to if you just looked at the broader market. There's quite a few step decks. There's a lot of low pro step decks, 3-axle step decks, RGNs, specialized trailers. So a lot of that stuff, I mean, people, I haven't counted it up how much money I made while I was at Landstar, but I did pretty well. And there was guys, and I don't work very hard. Like I've never worked more than 8 months out of the year as an owner operator. I've always taken a minimum of 4 months off. And so there's guys that made way more money than I did. So I'd say 99% certainty, there's owner operators at Landstar that have made north of $1 million in a single year. Maybe revenue, probably not profit, but there's guys that are knocking down some really big numbers on some of those loads. So they have explosives, I think it's called AA&E. So they got ammo, arms, explosives, artillery, whatever it's called. You got to go through all this special training. So there's ways to make additional money on that side of the business. I think, so I had to pull one of those guys out one time. They slid off into a ditch, in a little van. I don't know what they had in the van, but we're in a blizzard and they had slid off in a ditch, and I just happened to be stopped next to them. So I put a chain on their little Mercedes van and pulled them out. So there's those opportunities at Landstar that most people may not be aware of. One of the benefits is the ability to haul hazmat. And that's one thing, like, I don't think I would ever choose to go back to Landstar, but one of the things I miss is the ability to pull hazmat freight, because there's some really easy loads that pay pretty well and they just don't take any time at all. I mean, just like the hazmat IBC totes, you throw a few straps and you take off. So those loads, I pulled some of those that paid really well. And you can pull those in a van. Some of them are optional. You can do a van or you can put them on a flat or a step. But so I did some of all that kind of stuff. But you can see, if you just pull a van, the numbers have dropped off significantly. The guys that are doing more of the heavy specialized stuff, their revenue has not dropped off nearly as much. I don't know that let me zoom this out. I don't know that there was any other interesting insights in here. Well, here we go. Sorry I keep moving the camera around. I'm trying to use two phones at one time. But if we look at 2021, their 5-year summary of accidents, they had a lot, and then they dropped off. So I was there from 2018 all the way through 2024. So ever since I quit in 24, you can see they flatlined. They stopped improving. So obviously if they wanted to get their accident numbers better, they would bring me back and we would start improving again. Anyways, I'll go through a settlement. I got to fire up the laptop and I'll go through a settlement, just show you all the line items to be aware of. and kind of give you an example of how much you could make there. Here's a settlement from 2022. It was a better year. This is March the 29th. So I think there's 4 pages on this one. What you're looking at here is an IFTA rebate. Normally you don't have this page on your settlements, but I had an IFTA rebate of $35. That's why there's an extra page on this one. This is page 2 of that same settlement statement. The stuff that's blurred out over here, this is just my unit number, this is my trailer number, and my tax ID. So this shows the year-to-date earnings for this unit. So through March 29th, so through the end of March in 2022, the trailer had earned basically $8,200. And then it breaks down, there's 2 loads on this settlement. Lone Oak, Arkansas to Miami, Florida. $5,600 was the line haul on that load. 9% of that was $504. So that's what my trailer earned on that load. And then another one, Pooler, Georgia to Phoenix, Arizona, $4,100 was a total line haul. $369. So the trailer this week earned $873. This is page 3 of the same settlement. This is for the truck. I guess this balance starts at 0 and you've got to build it up to 1,000. So it's not working down from 1,000 down to 0. So that shows how much you've paid in. And once you get to 1,000, that's all that's there. That's all you have to have is for escrow. And I don't remember, it's been so long, I don't know how much they take per week or per month for escrow. It's not very much though. So the truck earnings year to date was $75,000, and these should be these same loads. Lone Oak, Arkansas to Miami, Florida, $5,600. And so this is one of the reasons I was trying to explain that Landstar doesn't take 35%, because you're getting a fuel surcharge. So if you look at the amount of this load actually paid more than $5,600. Now all my trailer showed was $5,600, but on the truck I got 100% of the tarping charges. I mean, and that's just, if you're at Landstar, that's kind of a negotiating thing. You can get their agents to give you more of the percentage of the total revenue being 100% to you, just by getting them to throw tarping. I have no idea if I even tarp this load or not. I mean, I got a lot of tarping charges when I wasn't tarping, just because I'd get them to add additional accessorial charges to it through, a lot of times it'll be called tarping, or, I mean, they could use different things, but a fuel surcharge is one that's going to be on all of yours. So this one, the fuel surcharge was $200 for tarping. So there was an additional $900, or not an additional. So whenever you agree to the load, you're agreeing to the total price of the entire load, but then they'll break out your fuel surcharge, and then they'll break out additional accessorial charges, tarping on this one. But you can see this one underneath, the Pooler, Georgia to Phoenix, Arizona. There's no tarp charges, it's just the fuel surcharge. But that's a pretty good chunk of change, that fuel surcharge. I mean, because it's a long load, so, I mean, I needed that fuel surcharge. You should be getting a fuel surcharge, whether it's Landstar, Schneider, Mercer, Bennett, any smaller company. You should always, I mean, depending on, I guess not always, just depending on how the pay structure is set up. I don't know that there's anything else to explain on this one. The truck stop scan up here, there's 2 of them, deductions and charges of $2. That's for using, so these are just transflow charges. I think there's another way you can send the bills into them, but I always just use transflow because it's so quick and easy. It's a rounding error compared to most things. So let's go through, these are your settlement expenses, or your settlement deductions is what they call them. The first line item here is else, and these, some of them are weekly, some of them are monthly. So whenever I pull up the next settlement for I don't know, I'll try, hopefully there's some different charges on the final one from 2024 whenever I quit. But if not, I've got a couple other ones saved I could pull up. And this isn't, like, I didn't cherry pick the best. I'm not going to show my best settlements or anything. This is probably on the, I'd say on the better side of the spectrum. It's not my best though. It's certainly not my worst. And I tried to find some negative settlements, but they don't just automatically send these to you. These are saved to their website. So if I had a negative settlement, I guess I didn't email those to myself, because I looked through probably 40 different settlements to try to find a negative settlement. There are negative settlements. When you don't work and you have these charges that I'm about to go over with you, you can have a negative settlement where you owe Landstar money. But I wasn't able to find an example of that, unfortunately. But I had plenty of them. I mean, like I said earlier, I never worked more than 8 months out of the year. So the LCN fees, I believe the LCN charges are for like honestly, I don't remember. I was going to say that's for your ELD, but I think I'm remembering that I think the ELD charges are called airway, something over the air charges, or I think there's some other thing, but LCN fees, there's a chance that could be related to an ELD, and I can't even spell my name right. Blackenship. That's crazy. After all these years, I never could spell my name right. CPP, Contractor Protection Plan. That's like a crappy version of workers' comp. It's not really workers' comp, but it's what they offer, and I'm not sure if that's required. If it's not required, they certainly made it sound like it was required, and they encouraged you to sign up for it. But it's way too expensive for what it is. I mean, I don't think this is anywhere close to what actual workers' comp is. Anyways, that's there. The pre-pass charge, $2.50, and here's weekly deductions. Unladen liability charge, $33.98. 2022 permits, just random permits that they pay for, and then you have to pay them back for. So this will show certain things. If you look at this original balance here, this is what the total cost of something is. They don't make you pay for it all up front. Like the one I'm about to talk about is my base plate. I just let them get it. You don't have to let Landstar do your base plates. You can bring your own base plate to Landstar if you'd like to. As they charge you, like you can see there was 2 cents remaining balance, and that shows after this 2 cents was taken down on this settlement, my remaining balance is now $0 for the 2022 permits. But the remaining balance that I started with $1,700 for the base plate, my remaining balance is $1,322.24, because I was paying them $94.44 every week. So, and this shows the total 1099 revenue, the total expenses, deductions charged for that week, and the net. So here's the final page 4. It's just a summarized version of everything we've already seen. I think there is one other thing, the direct deposit fee. So at Landstar, you have to pay for your own direct deposits. They'll put all your money onto your settlement card, and then you can manually send money to your bank account from that. This shows my trailers revenue. It shows my tractor's revenue. And then this was the refund was the IFTA refund. Shows my total deductions here. And the nets. So the total for this settlement was $91.93.14. After they pull out the direct deposit fee, $91.91.39. The bottom section here is future loads, or loads that you've already booked that you may or may not have delivered, but it's loads that you've either booked or you've booked and picked up and are in transit with, but you have not, or even if you've delivered them. If you haven't been paid on a load yet, it's going to show up down here. And then at the bottom, they just keep you updated so you know when your next inspection is due. This is one of my least favorite things about Landstar. I really hated their 120-day inspections. Not so much the frequency. I mean, they're useful to, have somebody else look over the truck on a regular basis, I mean, that's kind of helpful, but I just hate the fact that they make you go through a Landstar inspection rather than just, I mean, if you could just go to any shop that does DOT inspections, it really wouldn't have been as bad. And they tell you about maintenance report being due and other things they just want to keep you aware of will be down here in this bottom section. Okay, so here's a much less impressive settlement to look at. It's not negative, but it's not as good. This was my final settlement before I quit. So you can just compare. This was May 21st. So that other one was through the end of March. This is almost to the end of May, and my trailer had only made like $5,000 so far for the year. That's pretty bad. Oh, this is my actual okay. Well, they got a tire purchase on here. So I thought this might have been that top sheet. I don't know if there's 4 pages on this one or not. I hadn't even looked through it all yet. So you can pay your tires off over time. Apparently that's what I did on this one. Because things were, I'd normally never paid them off over time, but I'd normally just tell them just take it all off of the same settlement. But that kind of is just an example of the state of the trucking market back in 2024. I mean, and we kind of had a similar trucking market in 25, but when you start financing your tires and paying them down over time, you know it's pretty bad. This is going to have all sorts of just weird, I think these are some ad valorem charges from the state of Arkansas. Okay, because this is my final one, I think I'd advance myself some money. That's what that card pre-trip deduction is. And then this is the normal stuff we looked at. Rate change. Okay, so if there's every now and then you'll see an adjustment for whatever reason, if I guess they underpaid me on this load, so they add an additional $22.75. If something wasn't correct in the system, eventually if you don't catch it, a lot of times their system will catch it or somebody will. But you'll also have, if you go through Gallagher Insurance, which is their main insurance provider, you'll have your physical damage will be here for your truck and trailer. You'll see, I'm going to look for one, see if I can find that on one of them. Physical damage for my trailer was $162 per month. So the physical damage premiums for the truck were $258. There's the money I made through the end of May with Landstar. That's why I decided not to fix the truck, and I just took it out of service for a year. So these numbers are all, they're total revenue numbers. They're not, I mean, that's not income, that's gross revenue. So, and these numbers here, like if you've been looking at the year-to-date earnings on any of these, that's not profit. Here's a 1099 from 2022. I'm sure people will comment that's terrible, you should have done a lot better, or some people will think that's a lot. I mean, that doesn't include, obviously I didn't make that much money because I had expenses, I had fuel, I had all sorts of other costs, insurance, everything you saw in the settlement stuff. But you can make money with Landstar. Here's a less impressive number. If you thought I did bad in that year, well, you probably thought I did real bad in 2023. There's 2024, even less impressive. Now, this 2024 numbers, I mean, it wouldn't have been that bad, but that was only through the end of May. So if you're looking at not having your trailer and you're thinking that, like, if you just want to use a Landstar trailer, you think that's a bigger deal. What you're not seeing on what I showed is the expense line item. So you might be missing that trailer income line item if you don't have their trailer, but you're also missing either your trailer payment of your loan payment that if you're paying the trailer off, or your trailer rental monthly fee. So it's not, well, and you also avoid, with that trailer, you notice I have that physical damage, I've got physical damage policy insurance on the trailer, so the numbers are closer than they appear. I mean, I still think having your own trailer is beneficial, Unless you do, if you do a bunch of dropping hooks, then obviously it's not beneficial at all because you can't do it. The reason I really didn't like the dropping hooks, and I did a lot of them for a while I was when I was pulling the van. I mean, the only vans I pulled was I never owned a dry van. So, but the reason I like having your own trailer versus doing the dropping hooks, versus just using a Landstar trailer, is because you got to do inspections, you got to do repair. Like if you hook up to a new trailer in their trailer pool, you go haul a load with it, you might haul another load, and then you do a dropping hook, you end up with a different trailer. If you go do dropping hooks back and forth all the time, then you literally have a new trailer every load. Well, the inspection process, whenever a problem comes up, and another factor is that the equipment has different inspection cycles. So if you have your own trailer, if you have your truck and trailer, you're doing the inspections at the same exact time. So the trailer inspection comes due at the same time your truck inspection comes due. You do them both at the same time. You get everything fixed at the same time, anything that needs to be fixed. Well, if you're always hooking up to a different trailer, you hook up to a new trailer and it shows, oh, inspection past due. They want you to go do the inspection. And you don't have to do the inspection, by the way. If you hook up to a new trailer and they tell you have to go do an inspection, no, don't do that. Get your load, do whatever. You need to talk to somebody else, a higher up, that has more common sense than whoever the hell's telling you have to do an inspection right away. Because there's people that never do inspections on the Landstar trailers. And when I was new, I thought every time that thing showed up in my settlement that like a trailer inspection warning or something, that I was supposed to go do it. And yeah, you should. And I did a lot of inspections on those trailers, and they pay you, I think they pay you some little dollar amount to do it, but it's not worth it. It's definitely not worth the time. I mean, I think it's less than $100 they pay you. And just the amount of time of going in to check in at an inspection site is not worth $100. Because you have to drive to whatever site it is, wherever it is, it's not worth it. But let's say you do an inspection, and I mean, if you're going to hold that trailer for any amount of time, I mean, you should do the inspection on it. You should get it done. But it makes more sense if you have your truck inspection coming up, and then you can get both of them done. Like you can get their trailer inspected and you can get your truck inspected at the same time. That's what makes the most sense, really. That's what you should always try to do. But let's say you're in the trailer pool, you're doing the dropping hooks, you do an inspection on a trailer, there's whatever, or even if you don't do an inspection, this is more common, is you're not doing the inspection, but you hook up to a new trailer, and whoever had it before you, there was all sorts of problems. Lights that didn't work, brakes, or there's air leaking out of everything. Now, Landstar, in my experience, they have a pretty decent trailer pool. It's not just a bunch of garbage trailers, but you do still, I mean, it's reality of life of any drop and hook operation. You're going to hook up the trailers that have problems. And you're going to hook up the trailers, and you're not going to want to move those trailers until something is fixed on them, or you're just going to want to move them a little ways up the road and get something fixed. So if you do that, you get it fixed, and then 2 loads later, you hook up to a new trailer, you find more problems with that trailer, you do another load or 3 loads or whatever it is, you drop that trailer, hook up to a different trailer, more problems. So you can keep fixing problems for everyone else. If you own your trailer, you fix a problem, you benefit from that repair and that time that you spent getting that problem resolved long term. So that's why I like having my own trailer. In addition to the percentage, I mean, obviously it pays, the trailer, if you own your trailer, it pays. I'm supposed to wake up, apparently. But it pays, the trailer pays for itself. So I don't even look at a trailer payment as that's not even really a cost, because it pays its own way. And then eventually, like, my trailer's paid off. So now that the trailer's paid off, and my payments were really low. I mean, there's people that had lower payments, but my payments were only like $1,100. Because I got it when I got a low interest rate, and I bought the trailer before all the money printing started. I was able to get it for, I got it for about somewhere around 35% of what I spec'd a trailer out 2 or 3 years after I bought it. I was like, okay, if I just want to get a brand new version of this, spec'd out identical trailer, same manufacturer, Doonan, low pro 3-axle. I don't think I could come up with anything additional. Although I had switched the ramps from, instead of ramps on the sides, I had ramps on the back, like a beaver tail setup. But that was the only difference. And I don't think the cost difference on that was anything significant. They wanted $110,000 for the trailer. I only paid $40,000. So whatever the math on that comes out to, less than 40% of what the new. And I didn't buy it new. I mean, I bought it when it was a few years old. It's a 2015, so it's got some age on it now. But I would, and I've thought about buying I've thought about going over to that beaver tail thing now. And I just recently spec'd one out. They're $20,000 cheaper. Now, I hadn't put all of this, I'd say 70% of the options that I wanted, but I still had a few other little conveniences I wanted to add to it. But I had most everything on there, and it was only going to be, I think they came up with $89,000, where, you know, a couple years prior, it was $110,000. So trailer prices have actually come down. And that was from Doonan, as the same manufacturer. I didn't pull the trigger on it either time. I thought $110,000 was high at the time, and now in the market we're in, I thought $89,000 was high. I mean, too high for me to justify. Whenever it's not going to make me any more. It will save me time, and I would have the ramps. Like the ramps on this trailer got stolen, so I've already kind of rang the register on that. The insurance paid me $6,000 for those ramps, and I just never replaced them because I didn't use them that much. And the ramps. I kind of look at it like tarping, like you've got to pay me more to get them out and use them, because those ramps take a little bit of time to drag back there and set up and everything, the ones that are on the side of the trailer. But if I had the dovetail or beaver tails, then I wouldn't really have to charge them. I wouldn't have to get a premium. I could just do it for more like what the general freight, whatever just regular loads are paying, because it wouldn't, just flipping them out from the back wouldn't take any time. But there's so many hot shots that have, you know, they've got ramps all set back up there. So there's not really a premium built into the price. So you just have to, you got to negotiate and just explain to them, I'm not getting these ramps out unless you add $500 to the price, kind of thing. And a lot of times they can just find somebody to do it cheaper. And if they can do that, that's better for them. And if they can't do that, well, I'm not hauling it. I'm not going to spend extra time whenever I can go 5 miles up the road and do a load that doesn't require the ramps for the same price or close to the same price. So that's why I don't like those ramps on the sides. Every now and then, if you're in a bad area, I mean, I used them to get out of bad areas, and a couple times I had some good paying loads on them. But most of the places you go, like if they're a bigger manufacturer, they've got ramps. Military, they've got ramps most of the time, not all the time, but most of the bases here in the United States will have a dock or something for you to back up to. And I looked, so what's the name of that? The guy, a YouTuber truck driver, Super Trucker Dan, he's sponsored by his trailer, the trailer he uses, Dorsey. And I saw he did a video on a trailer they had that had built-in ramps for the top. Like mine's got ramps for the top deck, and they slide away. But theirs were built into the trailer deck, which has some pros and cons. But they had them. I think they called them mega ramps, or they had some name for them. But they were fold out. And the problem with that, those trailers are super cheap. I was actually like, I could have got that trailer for 50 or less than 60 grand with all the options on it. But the way they're engineered, the hinges on the back of those ramps were not engineered in a way that I could use them to back up to a dock, because it would crush the hinges. They're all exposed. And it's a massive amount of the hinge that's exposed. It's not something where you could add. I mean, you'd have to add, like, it looked like maybe an 8 to 12 inch dock bumper off the back, and still I wouldn't really be comfortable with bumping a dock with it. And so I asked them about doing like re-engineering those, and it didn't sound like they wanted to mess with it. Or I asked the dealership to ask them, and they didn't want to mess with it. But Doonan does more customized. Like they'll just custom fabricate whatever you need. And I'm sure Dorsey they would do it if it made sense. But for I'm a single truck owner, they don't want to put a team of people on some problem like that to try to satisfy a single purchase, a single transaction. But anyways, y'all take care. Thanks for watching the video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.